So the US and European markets are expanding their offering of EVs at a rate of knots recently. Startups like Tesla have rocked the foundations of the established players. The likes of VW are doing their level best to adjust to a new way of working and thinking. But the change is not just happening in Europe and the US. China has embraced electric cars at a rapid rate. Their developments in battery manufacturing have been hugely impressive, and now they're making really compelling cars. Today we're looking at one of the companies making strides in that arena. Let me introduce you to NIO. Stay tuned for everything you need to know. Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Martin Lee, and if you like what we do here, hit subscribe and the bell icon so you never miss a show. So what is NIO? Well, in a nutshell, NIO is a Chinese EV maker, but there's more to them than that. The company is actually quite young though. We're accustomed to many automakers in Europe and the US tracing their roots back well over 100 years, going back to, well, before the 1900s. NIO was founded by the Chinese businessman William Li in only 2014. Following the company's launch, they got financial investment from major international players, the likes of computer manufacturer Lenovo, investment funds like Sequoia, and Singapore government-owned Temasek. They expanded rapidly, getting a Formula E car onto the racetrack, and they launched battery swapping. And of late, they're expanding supply of their cars to international markets. Norway, that hotbed of EV uptake, being at the front of the queue. But NIO are not just full of ideas. They've put the work in and they've sold plenty of cars. Now, they're not exactly taking over the world yet, but they've produced and sold more than 100,000 cars since launching only those few short years ago. Even more impressive when you consider most of those cars were sold in the last 2 or 3 years. So, enough talk of the investment and the history lessons, let's look at the cars. So what's NIO making? Let's start with the EP9, NIO's opening gambit at making a statement to the world. It was an all-electric hypercar, designed from the ground up, pure electric. They sent it around the world, setting records at the likes of the Nürburgring and Circuit of the Americas. The EP9 had a 250 kilowatt motor for every wheel. Yeah, you heard me right, that's a total of a megawatt of power, or just over 1,300 horsepower in old money. So the car was not just all-wheel drive, but also individual wheel drive. It could do the 0 to 100 kph dash, that is 0 to 62 miles an hour, 2.7 seconds. But it could get to 200 kilometers an hour in 7.1 seconds. An interesting part of the EP9 was that it had an interchangeable battery pack. It could be swapped out for a freshly charged version in just 8 minutes. The car had a range of 427 kilometers, but clearly that's not going flat chat around a racetrack. So the EP9 was a hugely impressive sports car, but not exactly designed for the school run and the daily commute. Thankfully, NIO make other cars, and let's have a look at what else they do. They went to market in 2018 with their 7-seat SUV. It's called the ES8. It has a 3.01 meter wheelbase that makes it a very big SUV. Now, with all the seats up, it still has boot space of 310 litres. Fold down the rear row, you've still got a 5-seater, and boot space of 871 litres. Now, although the car is big and heavy, it can still do the 0 to 100 kph dash in 4.9 seconds. That's all thanks to 400 kilowatts of power and 725 newton meters of torque. The quoted NEDC range of the ES8 is up to 580 kilometers from its swappable battery pack, but I can be pretty sure you won't get that in anything apart from hypermiling conditions. The ES6 was introduced the following year as a mid-sized SUV, once again for the Chinese market. As a 5-seater, it is slightly smaller than its big brother, the ES8. The slightly smaller and lighter nature of the car means it can get a quoted 610 kilometers NEDC. That's from a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack, but again, real world range much less than that. Power is plenty, 0 to 62 miles an hour. The dash is done in 4.7 seconds. The EC6 was then introduced as a crossover coupe in comparison to the boxier ES6. The rear roofline slopes to give it a sportier look than the SUV. Otherwise, you can get the usual specs that you would expect from Neo. A big battery pack, 100 kilowatt hours and 615 kilometers on the published range. 0 to 62 miles an hour in 4.5 seconds. Lastly, we'll have a look at the Neo ET7. This is a big, luxurious saloon. An interesting option versus the Tesla Model S, and hopefully luring buyers away from the likes of the BMW 7 Series, etc. The ET7 is large, with a wheelbase of more than 3 meters and an overall length of more than 5 meters. Performance is impressive, 0 to 100 kph done in 3.9 seconds. Now, the claimed range under the old NEDC measurement is 1,000 kilometers. Unlikely. Almost impossible in reality, but we do expect an impressive real-world range when we can finally put it to the test. So we see that Neo are making some really interesting cars and that demand is ramping up for them around the world, but let's have a look at other aspects of the company. Battery swapping is something that was tried and rejected by many automakers, including Tesla, but in certain geographic regions, it seems here to stay. Neo is really getting behind the idea of battery swapping. Back in 2018, they rolled out the first handful of their battery swap stations between Beijing and the Shenzhen region. Fast forward to today, up to around 200 of these stations, and only in the last few months they carried out their 2 millionth battery swap. But we doubt Neo will stop there. Also, they've opened up their next generation of battery swap stations. They can carry out just over 300 swaps in a single day, and the drivers can even stay in the car while it's done. While the car and the machine carry out an automated swap using 239 sensors. Neo was also one of the original Formula E teams. Nelson Piquet won the inaugural season for them, despite the team only coming fourth in the Constructors' Championship. But unfortunately, their initial success didn't last, and a few years later, they were last in the championship. They were sold to Linsheng Racing and rebranded as Neo 333 Racing. So there you have it, folks. Neo are making a case for becoming an international brand. They have the motivation and the financial backing to make it happen. They're making compelling cars and investing in interesting technology that may influence how China uses their EVs. Only time will tell if they can make a real international presence. So let us know what you think of Neo in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. All over the world this channel is watched, but if you've got experience of a Neo car, let me know. I've never driven one. What do you think about the cars and the technology around them? What sort of competition is Neo eyeing? Will they steal sales from the likes of Tesla, or are they aiming at those luxury combustion brands, the likes of BMW, Mercedes and Audi? Well, thank you so much for watching today. If you like what we do here, give us a thumbs up and we'll know to make more videos just like it, and I'll see you on the next one.